Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh, Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the impact it has, the people it reaches. I started the podcast as a passion project. I had no idea how far I was going to go, and the messages I get on a weekly basis clearly having an impact. So thank you if you're a regular listener. Welcome if you're new. Let us know if you have any feedback. Always a blessing. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to guide people on their journey. I get to guide you to become your authentic self, to understand your journey, to understand the layers, understand the karma you brought into this lifetime, and truly shine your authentic light. I do that through a beautiful mentorship program that was channeled through the Akashic Records, 12-week program that really does change your life through Akashic Records. Through this podcast, through so many different ways. We give so much back and love to do it. So today's a special episode. Normally, you either have me with a guest or me with Stacey. Today we have Stacey and a guest. So I'm excited for this journey. But to begin with, I'd love for Stacey to introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, and published author Stacey Brown. Stacey, even if there's three of us, you still got to do it, Still got to do it. Please introduce yourself.
Oh my gosh. Friends, it's so good to be back with you again for another episode. I'm really looking forward to getting into this episode today. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from all around the world. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And I published a book 3 years ago called Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender. And it's available on Amazon and Audible. I am passionate about helping people. And like Nimesh was saying, we do that in a variety of ways. If you're uncertain of where to get started, we offer a free discovery call. And that's always a great place to start when you're not sure what you need. We love hearing from you. So if we can support you in any way, please reach out. Really looking forward to getting into this episode today, Nims.
So am I. And I'm excited to have Jen with us. So Jen, I'd love for you to introduce yourself using your own words. Over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Nims and Stacey. My name is Jen Fair, and I'm an astrologer with Moon and Cancer readings. I'm here to talk about my practice of giving astrology readings from a traditional lens, and I'm excited to share my journey with you all.
Yeah, we're excited to hear, and it's really interesting. There's more information about planets now than I feel like there ever has been. They're just more, kind of Saturn and Neptune and Aries, and we just, as everyone knows, we're recording today on the 3rd, which is the day of the eclipse. There's just a lot more information out there, and so I'm excited to get this journey going. Jen, you came as a recommendation from Stacey, so I'd love to hear from Stacey first in terms of her journey with connecting with you and kind of where this kind of you coming on the podcast came from. So Stacey, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, so Jen and I met through a mutual friend, and I was really curious about my chart. I've done human design, I've done other avenues, but haven't really dabbled in much astrology other than knowing like my sign, right? Like I know I'm a Virgo, but I didn't really know a lot more detail about that. So I reached out to Jen out of curiosity, and I had a reading with her that was really insightful. And I think the most powerful part for me was that Jen didn't just provide the reading, but she provided like a thorough report afterwards that I could read through in my own time and understand more about myself. So ironically, last night I sat with a couple friends reading through my report, and so much of it resonated with who I am and really helped me to understand a little bit more about myself. So I felt like it would be a powerful thing to have her on an episode talking about what she does, knowing that some of our listeners are probably in a similar position to me, not understanding a lot about their sign, and you may be curious.
I love it. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So, Jen, I'd love for you to share your journey. Share for, kind of what attracted you to astrology, your journey there, and anything you want to share that's in your heart. For me, astrology gives good insight into the human part of my journey in terms of, I'm a soul having human experience. So any insight into the human experience, the better. And just before we started recording and before I waiting for Stacey to join, Jen was giving me some insights into my my chart, and it resonated so much. So Jen, I'd love for you to share your journey and kind of what led you here. Over to you.
Sure. I think looking back, the stars were always my first language. I just didn't have the dictionary yet. The moon was my best friend. I would spend, and we could only really get a good view of it from the bathroom down the hall that I shared with my brothers. So they would always be knocking on the door, like, it's my turn, come on. But I would have these conversations with the full moon. I just was always so mesmerized. And then when Voyager 1 and 2 had the photos of the outer planets and the solar system, I had one of those picture books and I would just stare. And Saturn was actually my favorite planet, which is funny looking back because it's been the one that's given me my most challenges in life. And so in general, I always had a fascination with the sky and the stars. And over time, I was aware of sun sign astrology. I knew I was an Aquarius, but it never really resonated. And I think what I've realized now is that this Aquarius sun has now revealed itself in my 48th year of life. It just means I'm a little bit of a late bloomer because my sun sign is also at the very end of Aquarius. But when I first found out about moon signs and realized my moon was in Cancer, everything just like aha moment there. And I realized I was a night chart. And I realized, oh, there's all these other layers. And my first dabble with the spirit world was with tarot. I had somehow accrued a tarot deck that I would see in my closet every 6 months or so, cleaning it out. And I'd just follow the little booklet that came with it and did a reading, but I didn't understand anything about it or the basis. And when we moved cross country and we were setting up a new community and home, and it was very stressful, we also had a family tragedy happen. So I was trying to seek spiritual healing in a way. And I realized I had all this internal work I needed to do. But tarot was the first way that I was able to really communicate with spirit because I'd had this relationship with this deck for so long. And I could study tarot. But then I realized, oh, tarot is really based on astrology. And so I started finding myself having to go further and further to the original source. And I happened to come across the Astrology podcast with Chris Brennan and Lisa Scheim and Nick Dagan-Best, these astrologers and Demetra George, who have been, knowledgeable about this Project Hindsight that started in the 90s, where a group of astrologers started translating the ancient Greek from the Hellenistic tradition. And Demetra George was teaching this course in Kepler College, an astrology school. And then she created these workbooks. So I just kind of found myself as I would explore all things spiritual, like building my own stamina, developing a Reiki practice, practicing in mediumship. I always seemed to have this nagging pull towards studying astrology. I would listen to a podcast about something completely different, and I would start thinking about the person they're talking about, and I wonder where their sun sign is, or I wonder where their Mercury is. And I would just feel like it was always pulling me in to keep studying and keep working on it. And I thought at first I would get this really quickly and really easily. And I tried to give my older brother a reading 2 years ago, and it was terrible. He's just and I grew up with him my whole life. I should know him. But he was like, no, this is nothing. This is nothing to me. And I realized, okay, I really need to go back and just really take the time and work through these workbooks. And I felt this, I tried kicking it to the curb all the time. And then I would talk to my parents and they would tell me about an experience they had where, oh, the hotel room wasn't available and the bed wasn't even made or something, and there was the wrong sign. I said, oh, it's Mercury retrograde. So, and I would just tell them about these things. And they're like, how did you know that? And I don't know. It sort of, I feel like spirit is leading me on this path, that this is really not me driving it. This is spirit. And I'm just allowing spirit to take me through this process and see where it goes.
So I kind of love how you guided to, for me, I always, on the spiritual side, been quite focused on the soul. And it's more recently I've been kind of interested in astrology, and even kind of growing up, the only thing I knew was the sun sign. I didn't know anything about, didn't even, I'd had Vedic readings done from an Indian perspective, and a couple of times I had my chart read, but I never really looked into my rising or my moon. Occasionally read my horoscopes, but it just seems to be much more of the fore right now. So I don't know if it's because of this shift the planet's going through. People are just more curious and looking for more answers. But I'm curious, what's your take on, and maybe it's just me, maybe I missed it, but I feel like it's so much more in our face, and kind of people are just more curious. I'm
Sure.
curious if you have an insight why you feel that is.
I think it's interesting. Ever since the pandemic, I know that astrologers back in 2019 were seeing a lineup of planets that were going to be happening in Capricorn, which is a zodiac sign ruled by Saturn. And Jupiter was going to be there, all these big planets. And Saturn represents no and restrictions and limitations. And they just knew that people were not going to be hugging the third week in March of 2020. And so what that tells me is that there are patterns that happen in the world that you can see through a birth chart of a country, a birth chart of a person, a birth chart of a company. You can actually see when these cycles happen, because it doesn't just end at, okay, here are your 7 planets and here's where they are. They're always moving, and they have relationships. Like each planet has a specific relationship to the sun, with how many years it takes to come back to the place it was when you were born. And that is usually when a natal promise happens. And so for the United States, for example, their birth chart has a Uranus, which is an outer planet that is about sudden shakeups, and Mars, the planet of drive, conflict, war, that is baked into the United States birth chart. And there's something about revolution that's always associated when these planets are talking to each other. You see these patterns happen over like different countries and how they're all coming up in the world news right now. You can actually see the astrologers I listen to with the astrology podcast. They really do deep dives into these types of planetary relationships, like Saturn and Neptune are now together for the first time in a century in Aries, in the beginning of Aries. So Saturn Neptune is a lot about the reality distortion field, where you're going to have revelations happen, but you're also going to have a lot of slop, a lot of misinformation. And so at this point, we are not quite sure what we're seeing is real and what is fake. And that is because Saturn and Neptune are right on top of each other. Imagine like a cardboard box that's floating on like a cardboard lily pad in water. So you've got the cardboard box is Saturn's. It appears to have structure. It appears to be something you know what it is, but it's sitting in this Neptune space of disillusionment. And it starts to completely sink into the water and evaporate. And so so at this point, I noticed just with my own chart, like what was going on in my life when Saturn and Neptune were close to each other last July. And nothing crazy happened. It was just like I saw that I visited with some relatives. I saw that we had visited my in-laws and we were fixing their house. There were different things that were happening. And then sure enough, as it hit on February 20th, all of a sudden I had a surprise visit from those same cousins that I hadn't expected. One cousin a few days later broke down. I mean, she lives an hour away, but somehow she was on my street with a busted tire. And the tire place, their computer system was down. And I see the stars talking to me all the time, like, oh, okay, this is coming up again. And this is what I can expect. And so what astrology gives me is the ability, it's like I compare it to standing at the ocean, like looking, either your back is turned to the waves. Like I felt like that was my life. Like my back was always turned to the ocean waves and I'd get knocked down and I wouldn't know when a big wave was coming. And I'd always feel like, that's not enjoyable. And so I feel like what astrology has given me is this tool to turn around and look at the waves up ahead and be able to see and time them and be able to make a choice on whether to jump, swim, or stand back a little and wait to go back. You know what I mean? It's more about co-creating with the universe. It's not that everything is fated. It's more about understanding like the energies of other people and the world.
I love it. I love it. Come to Stacey next, but I just want to get your insight into. I talk a lot spiritually about we're shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine. I feel like the planet is going through a shift like it's never been through before. I'm kind of, what's your take on it from a more kind of a global perspective? What do you feel? What do you see? What do you feel the planet's going through? Any insight into what's coming?
For me,
sorry, to you, Jen.
Yeah. I think what I try to do when I feel anxiety about what's coming, because I know that what's going on right now is just sort of the beginning. Like there's going to be a lot more hard times coming up, but I always do a Reiki practice of the distance Reiki over the earth. Like I imagine myself from the moon's perspective, healing the earth as much as I can and healing myself for how I move through this uncertain time. I mean, I can remember how I felt when I was looking up more information about the pandemic. And I have two daughters with asthma, and they were very young. I was very scared. And I felt very out of control, and I didn't know what to do with that. And this time now, it feels scarier. Yet I've noticed in myself, I'm still moving through it all, staying true to who I am. And I'm understanding the energies. And I feel like it's just taking me outside of my house more and it's connecting me to the earth more. And that by contributing positive energy towards the collective, by healing myself and connecting with the planet, with the stars, with the world in a way that's intentional, that helps with this anxiety. It really does. It helps me stay true to myself as well.
I love it. I can't, in terms of, the shifting planet. Stacey, what are you feeling? What do you want to ask? What do you want to share?
So I guess I'm thinking of like where I was before I had my session with you, Jen, and I had no clue what I was getting into. I just knew that I wanted to know more about myself, and I was coming to you with questions. When you're new to astrology, where do you start? Like where, what is the foundation for us to understand, for those of us who are new to this? What is it important to know about our chart when we're first looking into it?
I would say if you're a day chart or a night chart, understand what is your primary luminary. Are you a sun person, or your day chart, or are you more of a moon sign? And I would actually start looking at the moon. That's the planet the planet in the traditional sense that changes signs most frequently. And so if you want to understand maybe how these moon signs affect your life, just start taking observations. There's a great app on the moon. It's called Moon X app. And I love using that because it keeps me, the moon changes signs so quickly. It's hard to sometimes keep up with which sign it's in. It changes signs every 2.5 days. And then it goes through all of the signs within 1 month period. So that could be a way for you to just engage with the process of astrology by just being aware of what phase of the moon it is currently, and also what zodiac sign it's in, and see things that you observe in your life. Also, it's really interesting too. I was listening to this one podcast. It's the Astrology podcast, has a lot of information, but I feel like Big Sky Astrology is another podcast that just focuses on the moon and the major transits for that week. So it's an easy bite-sized listen for you to know what's going on with the moon right now and what's going on with the major transits. And then there's AstroSeek, ASTRO dash Seek, SEEK.com. That's a free website anyone can go to put their chart information into, and find out what moon sign they are, because that's harder sometimes to just know based on what your sun sign is. And also what phase of the moon. Was it during an eclipse? Was it a full moon? Is it a new moon? Is it a balsamic moon? Those also play into understanding yourself. I mean, the moon signs are what helps me parent my children better without going too far into analyzing their chart. It just gives me a much better way of understanding how they like and need to be nurtured, essentially. Is that helpful for beginning?
That's so helpful, because I think for so many of us, it can be intimidating to learn a new modality, right? There's so much information. I know you've had to work really hard to research and understand and really grasp what you're sharing. And I think when we're going into something new, it can feel like a foreign language, right?
Oh, yes,
and we can feel so intimidated by the information that's coming through. And for me, I just felt like I needed it simplified, which is something I feel like you did for me.
Oh, that's great. That's exactly what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, because the more that I can understand about myself, the more impactful I can be in my life with how I'm making decisions and showing up in the world, right? So this is just another avenue for me to do that.
Exactly.
So if somebody's new to astrology and they know their sign and, you know, they maybe have a little bit of an understanding, where do you go from there? Like, once you've started into astrology and you understand your sign and you understand your moon or your day sign, like, then what? What's the next step?
Well, it depends on what your interest is. If you're looking at making like a career change and you want to look at maybe what's going on in the next year or so, you can run a solar return report, and AstroSeek, and myself, I can do that, where you look at the year that you're having your birthday. At the moment your sun returns to the exact degree that it was on your birth chart, that's called your solar return. It gives you an idea of what to expect for the year ahead. The other piece is with the ancient technique, it's called annual perfections. And so when you look at a circular birth chart that's 360 degrees, and I use whole sign division, so I assign 30 degrees to each sign. When you're looking at that, I'm sorry, I just lost my place here. Could you remind me what I just said, please?
Yeah,
I just went blank right there.
You were talking about the chart and being divided into 30 degrees, each section.
Yes. So we have, I don't remember at all what I was saying with
It's
that. I'm
okay.
so sorry. But you were asking the annual perfection. So when you look at the 12 houses, each section gets activated every year of your life. And so every 12 years, you go through a first house year. And then you move on to your second house year. And that is essentially what the ancients discovered, is that the chart kind of unlocks and moves along and is like a living, breathing document that is handing over the Time Lords are passing over to each other to be the most important planet for that year. And so that's a way to look at your life and what's going on now, is like, okay, what kind of year am I going through? And this past year, I was going through a 12th house year where there was a lot of isolation, retreat. I was doing a lot of deep personal work, and planning and like building the seeds for this business. And then I had my most recent birthday was the day after the solar eclipse, February 18th. So now I'm in my first house perfection year. And this is more about my body, my soul's purpose, putting myself out in the world. And it's happening. I mean, I'm recording this with you guys right now. So I see these kinds of patterns happen where I get a lot of people coming that have a 12th house year, which is really interesting, just to see. I kind of feel that spirit brings the clients that I need at the time that I need them. And then I always learn something new with every chart that I look at. And it's hard. It's a very daunting language to learn, but I really want to find the way to be that translator for people and not have them feel like they've got to read that 600-page workbook and do all the exercises for them just to benefit from this. I feel like spirit trained me and forced me to train myself so then I can somehow translate this and make it more accessible to other people.
Yeah, I love that intention. It's such a beautiful intention it's like the intention for this podcast is to simplify spirituality. It's like there's a lot of terminology that we use for different things. And I feel like as humans, we love labels, but it's like when we started talking, just before we started recording, we talked about whether I'm actually no, when we first met, whether I'm a night or a morning, and I'm obsessed with the moon. I love the night. I love the energy and the vibration of it. But ironically, I'm a morning birth, right? So, and you talked about the moon. For me, always kind of like, what do I look at? Do I look at my sun? Do I look at my moon? Do I look at my rising? If I'm listening to something on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and they're talking about this is what this month holds, I'm like, yeah, but is that for my sun? Is that for my rising? Is that for my moon? It's like, so I'd love for you to give a bit more insight into what is each one and what should we be looking at?
I would say with the general like sun sign horoscopes, your rising sign description is probably best for understanding what kind of transits are going to be happening, because then it'll give you more insight into what areas of life these things are happening as well. And for you, you're going to be entering a 10th house perfection year, NIMS, which is your Aquarius house. And currently you're in a 9th house perfection, which is about higher learning, spiritual ideals, astrology, publishing. And then that's also a Saturn ruled sign for you. That's your Capricorn house. And then Saturn's going to be in charge again this next year that your birthday starts on April 5th. And Saturn is moving from last year. It was in Pisces, and now it's in Aries, your 12th house. So you're going to have a lot of, like, I would say, career stuff going on this year. Very much 12th house theme things, which you are an expert on.
Did you say I'll be having lots of career stress? Is that what you said?
No, career stuff.
Oh, okay.
Stuff. A lot of, I would say that because your career angle is in Aquarius, that it's going to be communication, forward thinking, transformational, bringing old ideas to light for the future benefit. Those types of themes will be
I
for
love
the
it.
next year.
Yeah. I do feel a shift, and actually, what you just said resonates a lot. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
One of the appeals when we were talking was, I feel like a lot of people, their modalities, the things that they're kind of interested in, especially with the planet going through a shift, is kind of being activated. So, and as you say, you've been in it for a couple of years, and you know, some people, I guess, have been into it for lifetimes. But I'm just curious, what advice would you have for people who maybe this doesn't have to be astrology, but when someone's actually starting to find a passion that maybe more kind of spiritual, more on that side of the what advice would you be if someone's like starting to maybe get interested in astrology, tarot, maybe in Akashic records, but they're kind of curious whether they should explore that passion? What would you advise to them?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, develop your intuition and your trust in a spirit team that you talk to, incorporate in your life, so that you're able to discern what is an emotional download versus what is a true insight from spirit, and developing just trust in yourself, unconditional love for yourself, healing for yourself. Those types of things need to happen first to build this coherent vibration of what your that is a true reflection of what your chart is. For example, it's I imagine it's like sacred geometry, this the picture, the snapshot of the sky, the moment that you were born, is a reflection of your energy signature. And I feel embracing your placements, your moon sign especially, that it gives you more of a connection to your own body, and it then allows you to know what's true with anything that you're going to go for. Like, I doing woo woo kind of stuff is not exactly, there's no coffee shop that I can go to. There's no like community here that really, maybe there's one crystal shop 20 minutes away. It's not something that I can step out of my door and just talk to somebody about astrology. It's like a community I had to build and seek out. But ultimately, it's my spirit team that I have developed a good working relationship with, to know what I need to pursue, and keeping my intentions good. Like, this isn't about ego. This is about trying to share this insight that has really helped me so much. It helps me understand my kids, my pets, the world, everything. And it allows me to be able to speak and share it too. I think, yeah, with anything, if you feel really drawn to tarot and you get these synchronicities that happen where somebody talks about Three of Cups, or something happens in your life that just reinforces, like, yes, I do need to do this. And there's lots of great rituals I do as well. Just for the 7 days of the week, there's a planet that rules each day. And for today, it's Tuesday, it's a Mars ruled day. And I chose this for the podcast recording because this takes courage. And I I want to line up my actions with what the energy of the stars are giving me encouragement for, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes a lot. I just I'm curious. You said you built a relationship with your spirit team. What did that look like? What was your journey to connect to your team, and how did that develop, and how did you receive messages today?
Yeah, sure. The main way that I receive messages is through doing Reiki on myself. I'm much more of a clairsentient, like I can feel what people feel. And the first thing I did was I took a mediumship development class online, and I learned just a lot of different techniques for meditation, for how you direct your attention to your body, to observe to relax. I usually also get a lot of visions when I close my eyes, like behind my eyes. And I just listen to a very good, meditation. Either it's just a didgeridoo that my cousin's playing, or it's crystal balls. And I start to just develop this way of, I can feel people who have passed in my body because they lived this earth as a human. And then I can also sense higher beings. And it wasn't actually, so I always would try and talk to the past loved ones more often than I would the spirit team. And the friend who connected me with Stacey, she gave me as an exchange an Akashic Records reading. And she was the one that, pointed out that, hey, your spirit team wants some attention too. Like, they want to be talked to. They want to be included in this stuff too. And, in general, I would just say thank you, Reiki masters, Reiki guides, but I wasn't really connecting to my higher self, to angels, to saints, to people coming in that are even on a higher vibration than that. And now that I've been doing that, I've noticed just in the last 2 months, there have been a lot of crises that have happened. There have been a lot of things, moving pieces, but I'm keeping it together much more than I have 2 years ago. So I don't know if that answers the question, if that helps.
No, because it's like, it always helps. Because everyone's always trying to connect with their guides. Everyone kind of has a perception of what that looks like and get frustrated when they don't see things. And I always love asking people, because I feel like everyone's example might help somebody to build a deep connection. So,
and the other thing, I say thank you. I don't just ask, but then when I see something, like a lot of times I'm getting things together and something will just be presented in my visual field. Either it's a highlighter or a Band-Aid or something. And I accept that that's a message from spirit, that I'm supposed to bring that with me. And so I say, okay, thanks. And then I take it. And then when somebody, needs a Band-Aid, I take out the Band-Aid and I acknowledge them again. I just say, thank you. Like,
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. I mean, I always remind people, because our guides don't know everything, right? It's a co-creation. They're learning just as we are. And, don't put them on a pedestal and don't expect them to always. And, when I'm training someone on Akashic Records, I'll kind of encourage them not just to open the records to find answers, right?
Right.
Build a relationship, build a connection, feel their energy, start to build that.
Yes.
They're part of your team, right? They're assigned to you. So get to know them. If you just always going to them for answers and stuff, which you can do, but I don't feel like you'll have that relationship with them unless you build it, just like a relationship on this planet, right?
Exactly.
It needs nurturing, it needs building. Sometimes just closing your eyes and feeling the energies around you is a good start.
Yes.
And, being whatever, because your mind then plays tricks on you, right? But whatever you feel. If you trust it, then maybe that starts to build. So Stacey, I want to come to you. How are you feeling about this conversation? What are you feeling in your heart?
I just think it's so fascinating to get exposure to different modalities. And I really can't encourage our listening audience enough to embark on the journey of self-discovery and figuring out what modalities resonate with you. There's so much out there to learn and grow on your spiritual journey. And the more that we can understand about ourselves, the more we can show up in the world the way we're meant to, right? Because we can be intentional about the choices we make and what we do and why we're doing it. And so to me, astrology is just another tool in my toolbox now that I know a little bit more about myself and how I operate, so I can then show up in the world differently if I choose to. So to me, this is a very empowering conversation for our listeners, because we're giving you yet another exposure to something that might be able to help you on your journey. And I think it's important to know that everybody is different. What resonates for you might not resonate for me, but the more you can expose yourself to different things and really learn about them, that's going to give you the knowledge to then decipher what aligns with you and what doesn't. And so that's why I wanted to have Jen on here today, because I thought, there are people who are still struggling to figure out what they're connected with. And astrology might just be that modality that allows you to understand yourself better and influence you showing up in the world differently. So I think this is a conversation that's needed.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's really well said.
Yeah. I love the synchronicities too, right? I mean, Stacey's one of Stacey's clients, kind of guided you in some kind of way, Jen, in terms of connecting with you, and then that led to Stacey getting a reading, that led to us speaking, and I feel like the universe always has a plan of connecting us together, and it's just that if you're open to following the nudges, Stacey, I'd love for you to share more about what it was like to receive a reading, and then from Jen, just maybe sharing what someone can expect when they book a reading with you. So, Stacey, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so it was really cool because Jen and I had never met before, and I was a little bit nervous just because I didn't know what to expect. But what I loved was she broke everything down into terms that I could understand. And I think that's really, really important when you're receiving a reading, especially if you're somebody who doesn't have experience with astrology, which my exposure to astrology was very limited before my interaction with Jen. Like I said, I knew that I was a Virgo. I knew a little bit about what was involved in being a Virgo. But other than that, I really didn't know much. And for me, I have to take some time to process things and digest them. And so to me, the approach to the astrology reading was really cool because Jen explained the foundational things, the big things that I needed to understand in the session. But then she gave me a written report afterwards that I could read through. And like I said, I was reading through it last night and just pouring over all of this information. And it's a lot, friends. Like, she gives you a lot of information. And so you might not be able to absorb it all in the session. And that's okay. I mean, we tell people that when we read Akashic records for them. It's like, don't write anything down, just be in the moment. We'll record it for you, give you the experience. And, chances are your head is going to be spinning when you go through anything like that that's new. But the idea that there's a document provided afterwards to be able to help me to sit with it and marinate on it and understand it a little bit more, it is the perfect combination. So if you're somebody whose curiosity is piqued and you're having a reading and you're getting some information there, just know that there's so much more that Jen gives you to process afterwards. And I think for me, now that I've had time to understand a little bit more, I'll be honest, I want to set up another reading session just to be able to delve in a little bit deeper, because it's like, okay, now I understand the surface. Like, Jen's helped me to understand the surface, and I have this written report that I can understand, but it might be kind of cool to revisit it and dig a little deeper. So, I mean, my curiosity is so piqued right now, and I'm enjoying getting to know myself better. And I think that that's something that all of us need to do a little bit more of, is that introspective work where we focus on learning and growing and understanding who we are better. And this has been another tool for me to do that. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what more I can learn about myself. And I'm also intrigued to see how it impacts how I'm showing up in the world.
Wow, Stacey, thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear that it came across the exact way that I intended. again, I feel like it was spirit driven. Yes, I do give a lot of information because I'm talking about 7 planets and, the ways that it can show up in your life based on where it is in the chart. And my goal definitely would be from that point, like having a natal chart reading that is able to be digested and then pique a curiosity to learn more, and not feel intimidating. Just feel like, okay. And then I'll set up on my website for follow up readings that would be related to, you can look at synastry, you can look at how you interact with another person, for your child, for business partner, or if you wanted to look at your year ahead. And we can look at perfections, like what type of zodiac year are you, which house of your chart is activated, and what are we likely to see coming up for the months ahead, where the energy is stacking up. That is exactly what I hope to provide for people, is an easy to understand basic foundation of their chart, and then be able to feel like they can come back with additional understanding and learnings. And then on my website, I'm planning to have like study cards, study posters for your zodiac sign, different resources that they can access, blog posts. I want to be able to have this be a community that I can build and hopefully keep people engaged in
That's so cool.
learning about themselves. Because I think it ultimately, when you learn and understand yourself, you can understand other people around you so much better. I
Right.
mean, your kids, one daughter has her moon sign in Capricorn, and it has unlocked so much for me for understanding her need for boundaries, her needs for sensory things that are very particular. Um, it just allowed me to say, okay, I'm a moon in Cancer, and this is the opposite. This is a Capricorn. So we kind of heal each other by being opposites.
Mm-hmm.
But we also come from a different perspective with how we need to be nurtured. And so that has helped me understand what she needs to be nurtured. She needs that physical autonomy and space and structure. And I'm much more of a watery emotions, like, more chaotic. There's less structure. So I tried to structureize myself for her. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
how to adapt.
So if you're facing challenges in a relationship, are you saying that it's possible with astrology to almost like compare the charts? I'll give you, for example, in human design, when you have your human design chart done, you can have your chart laid on top of someone else's chart and see where you complement each other or where you struggle to be connected,
Yes,
right? Can you do that same thing with astrology?
absolutely. Yeah, it's called
Okay.
synastry, where we lay both charts on top of each other. We have an inner circle and an outer circle. And I did look briefly at your charts together. And I saw that your moon sign, Stacey, is in his 10th house, in Nim's 10th house of career. So it definitely is a very business partnership. And you have a lot of placements in Libra, Stacey, that balances out Nims's Aries stellium. You have a stellium in Libra. So you guys together definitely partner up in a very, like, you each have your own strengths that you bring to the table, and it matches up really beautifully. But
That's
yes,
so
and I've
cool.
also done this for my cousin when her mother passed away, when my aunt passed away. She's part of a grief group, and I got their times, and I did a grief synastry reading for her to show. I did the basic chart reading for my cousin, and then I did a basic highlights of her mom. And then I pointed out the ways that they connected with each other. And I did a similar report for a friend of my cousin who was in her grief group for her sister who she had lost. And it just, that way, it also provides a lot of healing. It's not to say, like, oh, this is all just meant to be. It also talks about, like, this is what you had together was real. And this is where you connected. And there was something with, and my cousin, for example, was very upset that her mother passed on her birthday. But I pointed out that like her birthday was the most happiest day of her mother's life. And it made sense looking at the chart that that was the day she exited as well. There's so many ways to heal using astrology, I think. And I feel like you need to be communicating with your own spirit team to know which direction to take it in. If you and also check yourself, am I doing this reading because I'm scared, or I'm aligned with, myself, and I know I need more clarity and this is going to be the way to go. At least that's my advice for coming into it, because it's
That's
a big
great. So insightful. I love it. So as we coming to the end of the episode, I'd love for you to share, how do people, I mean, I'd include your links in the show notes and all that sort of stuff, but what's the best way to reach out to you and to book a reading? What does that look like? What would that process be?
Great. My website is Moon in Cancer Readings, MOONINCancerReadings @gmail.com or moonincancerreadings.com. They can also type jenfair.com, JENFAIR. And they can reach out to me on my website. I have it live now, where they can book a reading for a natal chart reading. And then once we do an initial reading, then they can come back and come for a supplementary reading. And those are all lined up on the website as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. And just as we close, I'll come to you, Jen, first, and to you, Stacey. And Stacey, I'm going to ask you if there's any general prompts in your heart. But Jen, any final things you want to share as we wrap up?
Thank you so much. I just, anyone who's out there, I know that we're meant to work together. And I feel so grateful for this chance to talk to you both. I really appreciate it. And grateful to the audience too. Thank you.
Stacey, over to you.
So I would just encourage our listening audience to think about the modalities that are out there, maybe the things that you're currently doing to help yourself on your spiritual journey, and think about what might be missing. Maybe there's more for you to uncover about who you are. Maybe astrology is the avenue that you choose to do that. But I would give yourself some time and some exposure to something new, because you never know how it might hit and what you might learn about yourself from that process. So be open, my friends. I feel like I was open to something new, and I really learned a lot about myself just in the short amount of time that I've had this exposure, and it's been really powerful. So thanks for another powerful episode, and thanks for being here, Jen.
Same. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for shining your light. And as Stacey said so eloquently, if hopefully this episode inspired you to follow your passion. There's I feel like there's so many shifts happening on the planet, and I feel like the veil is thinner, and I feel like our guides us much closer to us, and we're receiving more information. So if you're getting the nudge to try something, do it. You can always take a journey in parallel to whatever you're doing right now. There's no need to kind of, totally move away from one thing to move to another. But if you're called to, do that too. That's why I was looking forward to this episode. And Jen, thank you for sharing so openly. Stacey, as always, thank you for being my co-host and being here with me. And Jen, thanks for the insight into mine and Stacey's partnership and connection. But sending everyone so much love and light. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this space. And we'll be back soon. Bye for now. Love and light.